The Phasmophobia fast ghosts. Know what you're doing with these ghosts or else.
God, I'm dead. I'm dead.
In order to best manage the fast, speedy ghosts in Phasmophobia, I recommend tackling the investigations in 3 phases. Before I get into these phases, I want to first tell you what ghosts I'm classifying as fast. You've got the obvious ghosts on here like a Revenant, Fae, Moroi, Raiju, and Hantu. And then you've got some more nuanced ghosts on here like Deogens that, although they can be very fast up front, obviously they're the slowest ghosts when they get close to you. Then I've also included 3 other ghosts on here that I want you to think about being potentially fast. They are the twins, Jins, and even mimics, depending on how they use their ability. And I'm going to talk about how to deal with all of these different ghosts when we get to the 3rd phase of this particular walkthrough. The first phase in dealing with a fast ghost is the setup and identification phase. This is going to include finding the ghost room, getting any evidence that you can or that the investigation allows, and identifying the potential risk for a fast ghost. Now I know what you might be thinking. This doesn't necessarily sound like an actual phase in dealing with a fast ghost, but in my opinion, I think it's the most important phase because the most dangerous thing about a fast ghost is that it could catch you off guard and surprise you. If you're within the ghost's view and you're not ready to deal with it, there's a very good chance that it's going to hunt you down and kill you. On the other hand, if you take this phase seriously and you gather 1 to 2 pieces of evidence and you're able to see that 1 or 2 of your options could be speedy ghosts, because you're scoping out your environment, this phase is also going to allow you to look for your cursed object so that you can see how it may help you when you get to the later phase, which is going to be a planning phase. The next part of your early identification phase is going to be based on whether or not you're doing something more difficult that has limited evidence, like insanity modes or even custom settings with no evidence, or if you're doing something where you know that you're going to get all 3 evidence items. Obviously, if you are getting all 3 evidence items up front, you're going to know immediately that you're dealing with a fast ghost. If, on the other hand, you are utilizing a setting where you have more limited evidence, that's going to shift your strategy because it's going to require that you risk dealing with the ghost during a hunt for you to identify what it actually is. For this particular walkthrough, I'm going to treat it as if you are doing Nightmare or above so that we can work with the assumption that you are relying on evidence from the hunt itself to be able to identify what ghost it is that you're dealing with. Let's say that you are playing on more difficult settings like Nightmare, Insanity, or even a custom setting where you're going to need to rely on a hunt to determine what the ghost actually is. I recommend that you get your evidence items all set up. This is going to allow you to start narrowing ghosts down based on evidence, which will also help you see that there are a couple of fast ghost options when you're narrowing down your choices based on the evidence that you've gotten. The second phase of dealing with a fast ghost is basically an assessment phase, and this is where you're going to choose between looping or hiding, and you're going to use either of these strategies to help you gather more information about the ghost that you're dealing with. From this point, you've got 2 options, and this is going to depend on a few things. This is first of all going to depend on whether or not you have any sense of what ghost you're actually dealing with. And secondly, it's going to depend on how confident you are with things such as looping. Looping's a great way to identify what ghost you're dealing with. However, it can also be very risky when you are dealing with a ghost that can be extremely fast. However, I would also say there's no specific benefit to looping any of the fast ghosts unless you're in a bind. There are a couple of ghosts, and I'll be talking about them, where line of sight is extremely important. So you may want to utilize line of sight to identify what ghost it is that you're dealing with. Looping can also be an effective way of sometimes trying to get the ghost picture because you can fairly quickly lose the ghost while you're trying to narrow down what it is. What I recommend before you try to loop a fast ghost is you start by trying to find a hiding spot and listen for the footsteps. The footsteps could tell you a lot. They could tell you if you're dealing with a revenant, if you hear slow footsteps, or they could help you identify a ghost that is changing speed during the hunt, like a Hantu that relies on cold air and a Raiju that relies on electrical equipment. Finding a good hiding spot can tell you if you're dealing with ghosts that are changing speed by going up and down between hunts, like the twins. She sped up there just because it can tell you if the ghost is just progressively getting faster or slower, like a Moroi or a Thay. General ghost ability. Oh, yikes. Oh, yikes. Okay, stop. Any time now? Yikes. Oh my god. It can tell you if the ghost is acting very strangely, like it's really rapidly fast, and then it's normal speed, and then it's, doing some other behavior like a mimic. I actually think it could be a mimic. It seems kind of like an Oni. Now, I obviously have one caveat with the hiding strategy, and that is for one of the quote-unquote fast ghosts, because that ghost can find you when you are hiding, and that's obviously the Deogen. If you're worried about that, I recommend just keeping a smudge on you and being able to smudge your way out of a corner, and you should be fine if you're dealing with a Deogen as long as you're careful. After you hide and listen for the ghost, let's say you identify that you're dealing with a fast ghost, this should help you either identify the ghost outright, like a revenant is very easy to identify, or at least narrow it down between a couple of ghosts. So let's say it is a revenant, the only ghost that I would be concerned with that could be kind of like a revenant may be a mimic. So you may want to have two hunts that are controlled, or you might want to look for orbs. But regardless, after you do your hiding and listening phase, then you can plan accordingly. And this is the third and final phase of dealing with a fast ghost. This is the phase where you create a plan to meet all the objectives, including getting the correct ghost, and you think intelligently about how you're going to put yourself at the lowest risk possible while also being able to meet all your investigation objectives. For example, if you're dealing with a Moroi, you can, well, you don't want to take that much sanity medication, but you could take some sanity medication and see if the ghost slows down on your next hunt. If you're curious if you're dealing with a Thay, you could see if the ghost has aged. How old are you? Goodbye. And you can also figure out what kind of protective items that you're going to use so that you can further gather that circumstantial evidence. As you further narrow down ghosts, you can start to identify if you need to be concerned about things like power, temperature, or even electricity if you're dealing with a Jinn. And this can further help you develop your plan to work on some of the objectives, like being sure to take sanity medications if you have to sit around and wait for the ghost to utilize the parabolic mic, or if you have to do something difficult like get a ghost picture, or smudge the ghost to escape a hunt. Don't be shy to exploit the ghost's weaknesses, so if you're dealing with a Jinn, turn that breaker off, get the temperature up, get electrical equipment out of the room, utilize your cursed objects, utilize those protective items, and you should be good to go. And that's pretty much it. That's how you primarily deal with ghosts that are fast in Phasmophobia. First identify, have good preparation after you've kind of narrowed down a couple of the possibilities, and then you come up with your game plan and you do it accordingly based on the confidence level and the difficulty level of the ghost that you're dealing with. So that's it. I hope that is helpful to you, and I hope that helps you survive when you are dealing with one of the fast ghosts in Phasmophobia. If a particular ghost is giving you trouble, please be sure to check out my playlist on advice on how to deal with these different ghosts. But otherwise, yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye.